Good morning and welcome back to our Be Strong show. I'm your host, Michelle Shirley, CEO and Chief Heart Officer for Be Strong International. And if you haven't heard about us, you should, because we are everywhere teaching relationship skills, what we've coined as heart skills, to parents, to families, to married couples, to communities, and we want you to be a part of it. So join us at our website, bestrongintl.org, to learn more about heart skills and healthy relationship development. Well, today we have an amazing guest. Her name is Kerry-Ann Royes. She is the president and CEO of the YWCA. Welcome to our show.
Thank you, Michelle. Thanks for having me.
Yes. So first of all, I want to say that we've been probably friends now for what? It might be 3 years, maybe 2 years.
More than that, you know how I judge it?
Oh.
The pandemic. It was before the pandemic.
Oh, you're right.
Uh-huh.
You're right.
So it has to be more like 5 years.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
And our beautiful soul of a friend in connected us.
Mm-hmm.
Jermaine
Smith Ball.
Yep.
Beautiful
Dr.
souls,
Jermaine.
right?
Yeah, I don't give her credit. Dr.
Jermaine Smith Ball.
She's amazing.
Yep.
So we are friends now and we're here today. And I want people to, I think sometimes in our nonprofit ecosystem, and as much as we're trying to get the word out about who we are and what we do, it's surprising to know that sometimes people still don't know who we are and what we do, right? So Miami seems really, really big and then sometimes really small. Yeah. So I brought you today, and thank you for being on the show, for people to learn more about YWCA and not the M, because that was funny. You did that one time at the philanthropy event. I don't know if you remember. You
not
were like,
the M.
Not the M, the W.
Exactly.
Yeah. So tell our audience about YWCA.
So I think the thing I like to tell people right off the bat is we have no pools and no gyms, only social justice. Right? And then they're like, wait, hold on. What does that mean? Because we've been socialized to associate the organizations as one because they're very similar in their name and they think in their mission. So I completely understand why people would see some level of similarities.
Right.
I like to think that our foremothers said one day, we want to create a space for what used to be called the least of us. And that was where charity kind of started, right? The YW has a 160-year legacy, similar to, I believe, I'm not sure, the other organization. But there was no place for women together. And at that point, women were the least of us. And it was developed to ensure that women had safe places to gather, safe access to economy, safe access to their bodily safety and health as well, being able to take care of themselves, being able to be supported by each other.
Wow.
And it was developed from that. Today, our mission is to eliminate racism, empower women, and promote peace, justice, freedom, and dignity for all. So what that looks like is about 50 years ago, there was a redefinition of, can we really have a conversation about who's experiencing the greatest disparities, which was at that time defined as women, without having a conversation about where race is. And I think it was so bold in that time for these women to get together and say, we are going to really think about the intersection of race and gender and the folks who are suffering the most disparities. We're going to change our mission. We're going to add racism to it, and we're going to put it in the logo.
Wow. Bold. Yeah.
Bold, right? The mission is bold. The work is bold. We're on the forefront of many movements that we're familiar with, including the 8-hour workday back in the day. A lot of women were factory workers after world wars and such. We housed the wives of servicemen during World War II.
Wow, incredible.
We brought Common Race for the Cure to South Florida. We've always looked at the issues that affect women of color most deeply, because we also believe when you solve for those issues, you create pipelines that so many other people can walk through, right?
Wow.
So when people ask me, is the YWCA just for women or just for women of color? I say, think about when we created wheelchair ramps. It was to address a very specific issue that was really destroying accessibility for a vastly disparate segment of society. But when we created them, we created so much access for so many other people to walk through. So she's my avatar.
Yeah, that's good.
And I think about her and her lived experience. Our mission thinks about her and her lived experience, but I think what we build welcomes all.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. And I think you giving that trajectory of where you've come from and where you've been as an organization, I think people wouldn't necessarily know that.
No.
How are you getting this out? How are you getting this out?
Oh my gosh, I think that's a perpetual problem. And I don't think it's just our perpetual problem. I think most of our nonprofits experience that. But I know that no matter what, when we discuss all the programs and all the areas, people go, I had no idea. I had no idea you were a social justice organization. I had no idea that you were that different. I had no idea that you have facilities that do not have pools or gyms. I have no idea that you own and run and operate 4 childcare centers that serve over almost 300 low to moderate income families a day. We had no idea that you brought Comb and Race for the Cure to South Florida to elevate the conversation around the fact that Black women were dying at alarming rates of breast cancers and cervical cancers, not because they were getting it at alarming rates.
Right.
They were dying of it at alarming rates because of access and all of the things that perpetuate issues in healthcare. So there's so many areas of the work that only the folks who really benefit from them or support us in doing them really get to know. Yeah. And we're, there's a part of me that's okay with that. Yeah. But there's also a part of me. No, it's like the tree that falls in the forest. There's a part of me that's okay with that, but there is, we're perpetual startups as nonprofits, so we have to resonate. We have to hold up for others to see. We have to model so people can replicate. We have to do more than keep our heads down. So though there's a part of me, it's a very small part that's okay with that.
I think, just what you shared was so beautiful. And I could almost envision I went to your space.
Yeah.
Right? I was invited to your space. Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
And I was just like, wow, this is so cool. And then I heard you're going to get a new building.
Yeah,
right?
I want to rip that sucker down.
Right. I'm just like, I wish I could take your building and put it because I need space. Right. So it's funny because I visualized maybe even black and white pictures of a wall. Mm-hmm. Where you see the history
the progression of the history.
Yeah. And just, so hopefully, I'm going to call your people since it's not on your mind. I'm going to call your people.
I'm going to tell you something. We actually, that long hallway that you walked down, that was the goal of that long hallway. Yeah. And it's still something that will manifest and we'll figure out how and when. And we might actually create that in the front lobby as opposed to that hallway so folks can see that as they come in and be a part of that history. Mm-hmm. But yeah, there's a lot of history there. There's a lot of proud moments. And I think brick and mortar, I think space matters. And I think we have an opportunity to bring conversation and elevate pride and really create a sense of dignity in the work and just people's lives. And I want our space to represent that at all times. I want you to walk in and just feel like you want to walk a little tall.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. That's very cool.
So that's what I hope that we will continue to pursue.
That's cool. Yesterday I was on a call with someone because again, I think access came up and we were honest with this provider that was offering a service to us about, we're not aware of some of these offerings. It's just a big, it's a huge firm. And somehow, I don't know how we got on a discussion, but George Floyd came up and it set me back because I said, it's been a while since I've heard his name. Right? And I wanted to ask you, when you hear his name now, based on, I'm sure what you experienced being at the forefront of that crisis. What are your feelings now, looking back?
Wow. There's so many thoughts. First of all, still grateful that it awakened an awareness that never existed before. Mm-hmm. Somebody had to die for that. And several people died prior to him.
Right.
But there was a perfect storm of pandemic, social media, being stuck at home, being isolated, being connected to a screen that allowed one more travesty to rise to the social consciousness level that occurred. Mm-hmm. Had it not been for all of those things coming together at that moment, we would probably never have known his name in the way that we do today. We look at what's happened since then, and, YWCA stepped fully into our mission in that moment and continues to now look at what's the next generation of that. Partly because we have a very impatient society that moves on, partly because we live in a state, and we've seen around the country, that are not embracing a lot of the lessons we learned during that and pushing back on that. And partly because I think you always have to kind of move to the next generation of work, right? I think it allowed us to create meaningful conversations and keep them going. And I think regardless of if it's on Vogue or in at getting the highest level of support, it changed something. He changed something. That year, those 2 years changed something in the fabric of who we are. And we can't look away from that.
Yeah.
So it's the next generation of the work now, which is much more deliberate as opposed to kind of out front. It's much more, how are we continuing to look at policies with a systems lens, a systems disparity lens, look at the unintended consequences that are coming from decisions that are being made. How are we continuing to drive the fact that zip codes should not determine your outcomes, right? That your race and gender should not determine your health outcomes, or if your baby's going to survive or you're going to survive childbirth. Those things continue to, the data is the data.
Right.
The data is the data. Whatever we want to call it, whatever we want to label it, woke, not woke, racism, not racism, there is racialized data that clearly tells a story about who is benefiting and who's not, who's living and who's dying, who's learning and who's not.
Right.
And we have a responsibility to that.
Yeah.
And I think finally there is a conversation that was birthed from that, that we have a responsibility to continue. So we're just moving on to the next phase. And there was a time earlier this year where I was just dismayed, just broken at the complete and utter backlash that was happening.
Right.
And I had to take a step back and frankly, kind of take a step away. I left the country for like a week, coincidentally. And it gave the perspective that I needed, which was, well, aren't I a little bit presumptuous? Why did I believe that just because everything had happened, just because we're in 2020s, that this was all behind us and everything was resolved and now we could just go forth and the pendulum had finally swung and it was over and we can now just deal with it and get to the root of the work. Nothing's ever happened that way.
Right.
Even progress never happens that way. It's never a straight line.
Right.
It's always been over time, zooming out, seeing how things have ebbed and flowed and how things rise and fall, but we make that steady progress forward, right? The arc of justice bends in our favor. So why did we think there wouldn't be backlash? Why do we think this is a short race? It's a long race. Everything in humanity has been. So we've made some progress and progress will continue to be made. And it's like a relay race. We just have the baton right now. Let's just not drop it and get it to the next person.
Yeah, I love that spirit of almost the continued humility and perseverance, right? To continue in that. It's interesting because I would ask you then too, how do you, when you see this and when your team sees this, how do you encourage them, and what are the wins that you're probably proud of right now?
First of all, we have an amazing team.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm sure. I feel like
world
every
class.
nonprofit is just...
You got to be, right?
Yeah.
To do what we do.
Yeah,
You got to
exactly.
be. But we kiss some frogs.
Right.
Girl, it happens. We kiss some frogs just like everybody else. And we have to compete in a space to get amazing talent that is hard for us to compete because of resources.
Of course, yeah.
And everything else. So I think I'm proud of the fact that regardless of the times that we see the long road, that we understand history, and we try not to get completely caught up in the ebbs and flows of just like the daily occurrences that could just knock the wind out of you at any given time.
Right.
The atrocities, the horrible stories, the injustices, and that I encourage us all the time to take that zoomed out lens. And sometimes it's often those stories of, remember 5 years ago where we couldn't have this conversation, where we couldn't do this thing, where we couldn't dream of ripping down our building, where we couldn't, finish a grant application on time, where we were struggling to do X, Y, Z. Yeah. Because when you're in that pin drop moment, all you can see is what's happening now and what's stressful today and why it's like, oh my God, right? And you have to remind the broader lens. You have to not make everything the worst thing or the best thing or the most urgent thing. Sometimes I'm not all that great at it because I'm a nonprofit CEO, right? Like yourself. And we are...
I love your honesty because it's rare to find. I think we always, I feel like, have to put on a good face, right?
Yeah.
But
yeah, we suck at some stuff.
Yeah, we do. We do. I'm sure my team right now is listening to stuff as they're watching, right? Yeah.
We suck at some stuff. And I am a futurist all day long. I am never satisfied with where we are. No. Always dissatisfied with because I'm dissatisfied with, I feel like people deserve the best of us, right?
So good.
And we can never rest on our laurels. We can never be like, we've arrived.
So
We're good enough now.
Yeah.
We've earned our keep. It's not a destination.
Yeah.
Not a destination. So and we're driven by mission in that, but we're also driven, frankly, by bottom line.
Yeah.
We are the perpetual startup.
Yep.
We are always chasing. We are always responding to the opportunity. We're always convincing. We're always sharing and telling folks. We're always on the pitch, We're always doing that. Otherwise, we would fail to do the work.
Yep.
Because no money, no mission.
Right. So good, so good. Well, no, this is great. So tell me then, how did you end up at YWCA? And you were born in Jamaica?
Born.
Okay, so I wasn't born there, but we're proudly representing Jamaica.
That's right.
Everything Irish. Okay. But tell. I think people would like to know probably how did you end up at YWCA?
So I get asked a similar question from time to time when we do what we do, right? And I also wish I had like a really cool story to go along with that. I really do. I don't have like an amazing story to go with that because I think a part of being a Jamaican woman and my culture is that it's a culture of achievement. It's a culture of, especially women. I grew up seeing women like me. It was not far.
Right.
It was very, very visible.
Mm-hmm.
It was parliament, business, motherhood, teachers, principals, flying the plane, running the airport. None of that felt like a space I didn't belong in.
Right.
So culturally, and by the way, everybody knows if you're not doing what you're supposed to do.
Right.
There's
I
that.
had a discussion with my team about this whole.
Oh, God. There is a community ownership
right.
of how you pick the them performing.
Right.
Right. And I grew up in that generation.
And it's performance, right?
Oh,
it's performance based. So this is good because I just shared some of the same things with my team as to why I'm wired the way I'm wired. Mm-hmm. Right.
It is performance based. And we grew up also in the generation that everybody did know.
Yeah.
You know, like the neighbor would tell my father if I wasn't in the house when I was supposed to be in the house.
Right.
Even though he wasn't home.
Right.
He would know.
Right.
The Jamaican newspaper printed who passed their exams. And that, everybody knows who passed for what you get. And it's in the news. Right. It is news.
Right.
The whole community owns that. And also the whole community owns the pride in that. So think about like how that manifests.
This is good.
In your self-identity, right?
This is really good.
Things you probably didn't even have words for. Because I didn't have words for all of that for many years. I didn't have words like why. I don't know why.
Right.
So many.
Just drive, yeah.
You just do it. Right? What do you mean by why?
Exactly.
But you have to, over time, I recognize, especially being able to compare it to what my children get to experience, some of the things that built me who I am. And so when I say it's not special, it's because it's what you know, right? So it doesn't feel like a story to be told. But anyways, came here when I was 13. My mother migrated from Jamaica, brought us up one at a time. Went to inner city high school, Carroll City.
Oh, yeah. I'm neighbors. We're at Norland.
You're at Norland, right?
Yep.
Now Miami Gardens. Which is kind of a full circle moment because we have a YWCA in Miami Gardens.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Went to FIU. Was able to get a scholarship to go to FIU. Did all the ologies, psychology, sociology, anthropology. I did all the ologies because I didn't know what I wanted to do. Because, again, if you're Caribbean, chances are you're going to college very young.
Right.
So by like 17, I was in college. So I just like, I just want to be bright, right?
Make the parents proud.
Make mommy proud. Don't waste our money. And make sure I can take care of myself when I leave school.
Right.
So there is that element. But it was also just you want to be excellent. You want to be great at what you did or do. So left school. I didn't really know what to do with that. Went to work for DCF because I figured, okay, I'm not going to get a master's yet because I'm not sure what I want to do. Mm-hmm. Let me go to work for DCF, which I can kind of touch all the areas of the social sector. Right. Foster care, case management, therapy, law, all the things. And then I can figure out, do I want to go into law? Do I want to do this? Or do I want to do that? After a while, I went to work for the other organization, the M. I went to work for them.
Oh, you went to the M.
I went to the M. They recruited me.
You're the reason why the confusion is here. No, I'm just kidding.
I am the reason. But more importantly, that's why I understand the confusion and why I can appreciate that we both have big places in the community, right? It's not a competition. I worked there. I was recruited there. I was initially I went to work in a group home first. Then I went to DCF. Then I went to the YM. I was there 16 years. And through that journey, became an executive. I grew up as an executive in the social sector there. And I was approaching 40. And I said to myself, well, I'm not going dead here. It's time to figure out who I need to be. And I had mentors who were kind of like,
you see something,
I see you're meant for more. Like, what is that? And I'm like, I don't know.
Right.
But it was time to go back to school. I went back for an MBA. So I did an executive MBA and I stepped out on faith halfway through and left that organization. I finished the MBA. And at the end of it, during that time, I did some consulting and I got to do just projects that I loved. Helping nonprofits build capacity and working with boards and helping folks to write grants and working with the corporations to think about their social community support work. And then I was like, man, I kind of love this. But when I finished the MBA, I thought, okay, I've been doing this for a year. I do like seeing something from beginning to end
Right.
and putting a bow on it.
Right.
But I missed team. I missed it a lot. And I'm also not a great sole proprietor. Right? I'm not.
You're just like, this was good for a while.
It was good.
It was a good run.
Nice experience.
It was a good run.
You know, look at that, God.
But I need people.
I need people. I need tribe. I need them.
Right.
And
funny.
I went in search of that. But also, you know, stepping out on faith teaches you some lessons about it builds your muscle to know you're going to survive, to know you're going to be okay, to know you're capable, to know I have a Trini friend who's coming tomorrow, by the way, who said to me, girl, what are you worried about? Terrible Trini accent right now. But it's not about employment. You're employable. And I remember, right? In that moment,
goodness.
she was like, what are you talking about?
Right.
It's just plug and play.
Right,
You get to choose.
Right.
But you grow up in a culture also that is like you work,
security,
you do the next thing, you get promoted, you keep your head down. So stepping out and like learning a different way of
it was new. It was scary.
It was so new. And doing that MBA program and being in the class with people from all backgrounds who were kind of like, yeah, I did that for 4 years. Then I went off and started a new venture. And then I left and I didn't work for a year. And then I did some projects. And I was like,
it's just new. Yeah, it's new.
I'm like, hold on. Nobody never told me that playbook.
Right. Yeah.
And they weren't worried or scared or thought they couldn't. And then they jumped back into the workforce and like another VP role or this and that. And those are just not things we were... brought up to think or we're socialized in, right? We didn't have access to that kind of we like to call it with this generation that they're very entitled. We never experienced that level of entitlement.
Right.
Like I belong in that room. If I want that job when I'm ready, I'll go apply for it.
Yeah, right.
So I had to kind of learn a little of that. Don't know if it totally fits yet. You know, I still think you earn your keep.
Right.
And you show up, so I had one foot in old school, one foot in new school.
Right. Walking that line.
I try to walk in the line, but try not to hold my children back. I want them to walk into their full purpose and show up in those rooms.
Yeah.
Anyway, how did I get to YWCA? I stepped out of that, finished the MBA. I applied for a few things that I really thought aligned with the best of what I had dedicated myself to doing. And when I decided to stop looking, actually, was when the headhunter came calling. And I was recruited.
Those darn headhunters. I'm not going to say anything about them.
Right? Sometimes
it's good, sometimes it's good. Yeah. Wow.
But yeah.
Wow.
And I just prayed about it. And I just hope that, you know, God would lead me in a path that made the most sense. And I believe that what he opens, he's asking us to respond to, and that he'll give us the discernment, hopefully, to decide what's right and wrong.
Yeah. That's so good.
And
here you are.
Here we are.
Here you are.
Here
on the
we
Be
are.
Strong Show.
On the Be Strong Show!
Awesome. This was wonderful, Kerry-Ann. I mean, I'm really excited. Now, this is the first ever that we have been in a space where we didn't get to do social yaks. So we're going to do a little bit.
Come on.
Really quick.
We have to do one or
because
two.
we want the people to know another side of Kerry-Ann that maybe she doesn't even know that will be revealed today. Who knows?
Afraid.
Right?
Okay.
Biting nails. All right. So the first part of the game is breaking the ice. And so I want you to pull that blue card there.
Let's break the blue ice.
Yes.
What's the one thing that can instantly make your day better?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So I'm a mom.
Right.
So there's always the default answer, right?
Which is what?
And I told this to my son the other day.
Room.
So no, oh God. That would be a dream. That would be a dream. And that would happen way too often for me to hinge my joy on it. Okay. But picking up my children from preschool, from daycare, from school, or walking in the house and seeing them, instant jolt of joy.
Really? Oh, that's so cute.
It has always been like, oh, they're here.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of like a puppy. You know, the dog is always happy when you walk to the door and you're like, you saw me just a while ago. What's the matter with you? I just went to put out the garbage or something. But I'm a puppy in that sense, where you instant jolt of joy
That's so
instantly
nice.
is
That's
seeing my
beautiful.
children
That's beautiful.
every day.
Aw, that's beautiful. All right, we're gonna go a little bit
Okay.
to the next level.
Get social. This one is kind of a cheat. It says, "What's your definition of happiness?" And because I already said my children, I won't say that. But I think it's contentment. But it's also, I realized in that period where I had transitioned from my previous career to my current career, that having options and feeling that you have options was true freedom. And I think that when you have that level of security, that you have choices, that you can choose when you want to enact those choices, that gives you a level of contentment where joy and happiness and other things can kind of like breed from.
Yeah, so nice.
And so I think happiness for me would not just be able to achieve that for myself ongoing, but to know that generationally, I've also passed on that level of security in self, awareness of your place in the world. And I'm talking on a scale of you are one human being on a huge planet in one generation. You are special and not that special. And God created you to use the talents that you have and just do the best that you can, but know that you own your future.
Right. Yeah.
You are in control of that.
Right.
And yes, life happens, but life happens to everybody.
Yeah.
Right? So happiness for me is in a level of contentment.
Yeah.
And then you put me on a beach in Jamaica, looking at the ocean.
With some coconut water.
With some coconut water, maybe some rum. You know, sitting outside in the elements, breeze, and I am in pure heaven.
Yeah. Let's not even go there with Jamaica. Oh my God. Okay. We're going to dig deeper.
One more.
Quickly. Yeah, one more.
Who do you miss the most right now? This one's easy. Because if I were to think about who I miss, I would say my daddy. So, and the reason being, he would be so proud right now.
He is.
He is proud. And I wish I could see his face to see how all of it kind of, you know, it would bring him so much joy. And I wish he got to see everything that I'm able to do, that his grandkids have become. I wish he was able to come in my house and put up my ceiling fan for me when it breaks. And, you know, that's the things that he could do that brought him joy. But I think there's always a level of missing him and his presence involved. And then there are people who have passed recently who I miss. I think it's the people who've left, like my sister-in-law. You know, I miss their voice. I miss seeing them, their smile. You can hear them, that kind of thing. But I'll see them again.
Yeah, we will. Wow, girly. Okay, so this is my question to you, and I'm going to answer it. If you were to pick it up, it would say, what do you think is my greatest strength? Kerry-Ann, I think your greatest strength is just the resilience that you have. We're in a group together, and we share a lot of things in that group. And I've watched you be able to keep a beautiful spirit of joy in the midst of all the crazy that is going on. And I know you being at the helm of even what happened that we talked about these last few years, I think for you to come out and be where you are today and with an organization that is amazing and still leading the charge is just, words cannot express, I'm sure, how the community is thankful for the voice that you have for those who don't have a voice. So continue to be resilient, continue to be amazing, continue to keep that joy and that beautiful smile that you have everywhere you go. Yes.
And I'm going to work on receiving that.
Yes, I want you to receive it because I really mean that. I know we're on the show, but I really mean that from the bottom of my heart. I watched you. We all shared things, but I watched you really thrive in a time where it could have been very, very difficult and where you could have said, you know what? I'm done.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah.
We don't have a choice to be done, right? We don't get that.
We don't get that choice. Yeah.
Thank you, Mish.
Choice. Yes. So I want any last words about YWCA, where they can find you, how they can connect to you, please.
So join us on any platform at YWCA South spelled out, Florida. Actually, let me correct that. YWCA South FL.
Okay.
YWCA South FL. Instagram, Facebook. Yes, Instagram, Facebook, as well as LinkedIn. Obviously on our website at YWCA South Florida, spelled out,
right.
.org. And again, it's the W that makes the difference.
Yes, awesome. I love it. Well, this wraps up our show. This was an amazing time. I hope you get to share this show with someone that I think needs to hear the messages that were heard today through Kerry-Ann. Please follow us on all of our pages as well, Be Strong INTL. We are excited that you are here with us. We want you to remember to be happy and to find joy in your space. Walk in your freedom. You are loved. See you next time.